We ready? Okay. Cuyahoga County Public Works Procurement Contracting Committee meeting for Wednesday, June the 1st, 2022 be called to order. Roll call, please.
As a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Ms. Turner. Ms. Turner is absent at the moment. There is a quorum.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any public comment this
No,
morning?
Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
And if we could have approval of the minutes from the May 18th, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Dale, second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. And Madam Clerk, if you could please read the first matter referred to committee.
Resolution number 2022-0132, authorizing a state contract purchase with the safety company doing business as M-Tech Company in the amount not to exceed $905,461.72 for the purchase of one replacement Dynavac straight jet truck and 2 Q's TV trucks for the sanitary division.
All right, and if you could just please state your name for the record.
Good morning, Melanie Say, Department of Public Works. Department of Public Works is respectfully requesting the purchase of these 3 vehicles off state contract. These vehicles will be replacing existing trucks from the sanitary division that date back to 2010, 2012, and 2007. Most of the trucks that are currently in our fleet are becoming aged and are costly to repair. We are purchasing these off of state contract, and that's about it.
Okay. If you could, you said that through the state contracting?
Yes.
Okay, and if you, for those, well, Meredith's not here, but just briefly, how does the state contracting work?
So the state contract, the state will go out and competitively bid for various cars or products. And then they make it eligible for other county agencies or city agencies to actually buy off of the state contracts. Usually, because they're doing a mass purchase, we get better pricing when using the state contract.
Okay, thank you. And then what exactly does this type of equipment do? I think I have an idea, but.
So the Q sewer trucks, they actually are the camera trucks that go down and actually view the sewer drainage lines. And then the vac trucks are the trucks that come in and kind of push out the
Gunk. Right.
Yes.
Stuff, yeah.
More technical term.
It pushes out the grit that's obviously in the sewer line.
I said gunk. Okay. All right, grit. Okay. All right, appreciate that. And then are these replacing old vehicles?
They are replacing vehicles, one 2007 and 2010 and a 2012. The older vehicles will be sold on gov deals.
Okay. And then how long do you expect these vehicles to last? Is there less of a life expectancy than a regular truck or?
They're usually about 10 to 12 years.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues? Mr. Sweeney and then Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the state contract, rough ballpark of a percentage
Usually
savings.
11% discount off
So
of
it's
this price.
significant.
Yes.
So thank you very much and keep up the good work.
All right, thank you. Mr. Miller?
So I saw a fiscal agenda item for these and other vehicles, and it said that the cost would be distributed among the various municipalities that we contract with. Can you explain how that allocation takes place?
So usually, once we buy vehicles, we are replacing the older fleets, and these vehicles are used to go out into the communities to do basic service for the communities. Most of our communities have contracts or agreements with us to do these types of services. So it's really not that the communities will be paying for them, it's that the services that we do for the communities offset the cost of these vehicles.
Yeah, if I could follow up on that too. So we have hourly rates for each of the type of services we do, and we bill those back into the community. There's an account set up for each community, and we charge to that account for as we do the services. So the hourly rate includes both the manpower and the equipment that are used as they're doing the work.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, what is the timeline on this here?
Because it's been taking quite a couple of months to have the vehicles go go through the actual process, we're asking second reading suspension.
Okay. I'll make a motion for moving R 2022-0132 along on second reading suspension. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the next item.
Resolution number 2022-0133, making an award on requisition number 8964 to Katz Construction in the amount not to exceed $2,974,258.50 for rehabilitation of various roads.
Okay, and we have someone from Public Works. If you could just state your name from the record. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Good morning, members of the committee. This is Tom Sotak from Public Works, here to discuss the resurfacing of Green Road and Ivanhoe Road. I'm here in substitute for Nicole this morning, who is not here today. But anyway, I want to discuss with you this project, which features the resurfacing of Green Road from the Cleveland South Corp line to Euclid Avenue, and Ivanhoe Road resurfacing from Euclid Avenue to East 152nd Street in the cities of Cleveland and East Cleveland. This contract is proposed to be awarded to Katz Construction for an anticipated cost of $2,974,258.50. The anticipated construction dates are from May 31st to September 30th of this year. And I'd like to point out that we plan on maintaining two-way traffic at all times during the construction of these projects. We received 4 total bids. I should note here that we did not accept the lowest bid for the project. The lowest bid was submitted by CA Agresta. However, they did not meet, they were deemed not in compliance with the diversity goals. The contractor subsequently appealed that to the Diversity Appeals Board. The Diversity Appeals Board held up the Diversity Department's decision to go with the number 2 bidder on this job, which was Katz Construction. It was within 8% of the lowest bidder, which is within the tolerance set by the county code. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of that. The RFP was closed March 21st, 2022, and the diversity goals on this project were 2% for the SBE, 16% for the MBE, and 12% for the WBE.
Okay, all right, appreciate that. So just to clarify then, so it was rejected because it didn't meet diversity goals?
That's correct, yes.
All right, and what's the start date, estimated start date for this project?
The estimated start date is yesterday. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but it should be within a couple of weeks. By the time we get a pre-con set up and we get everybody out there, I'm sure the contractor is going to be eager to get started on this.
And estimated completion date?
I would say, it says here September 30th, 2022, but based on the fact that we're already a couple of weeks late, I would say mid-October sometime would be appropriate.
Okay, and then why 2 roads, why 2 roads combined in this project? Not 2 separate?
That's a good question. Sometimes we feel as though it's better to combine 2 roads that are close by, similar scope of work, rather than, you get probably a little economy of scale by getting one contractor to do 2 roads. Certainly, we wouldn't consider that if they were geographically far apart, but since they're fairly close together,
Okay.
We decided to go that route.
Okay, questions from my colleagues? Mr. Miller?
What was the engineer's estimate on this project?
The engineer's estimate was $2,930,000 and $2,930,000, excuse me. That was the engineer's estimate. So the bid that we accepted was very close to the engineer's estimate.
And how far short did Agresta come on the diversity? Were they, did they have almost nothing, or did they come pretty close but not quite?
I could get you that information. I don't have their exact numbers here with me. Oh, Lenore, thank you.
Good morning, Lenore Lockett, Department of Equity and Inclusion. The diversity goals were 2% SBE. As a prime SBE, they did meet the 2% goal. They are county certified. CA Agresta is a county certified SBE. The MBE goal was 16%. They had 7.4%. And the WBE goal was 12%. They had 5.56%. And it wasn't necessarily that they didn't hit the goals exactly, it's that they did not understand the new requirements, and they did not provide good faith effort to document why they were short 12%, 7.54 instead of 16, nor did they document why they only have 5.56 instead of the 12%.
So they do have, not to cut off Mr. Miller, but they do have an opportunity to explain, and they just, for whatever reason, chose not to, or do it to your satisfaction.
Yes, it was a miss. As you know, in November, on November 9th, we passed the modified
Right.
SBE, MBEW program modifications.
Right.
And we also did training, but they did not comply with the new rules.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
So, how much effort have we made to make regular contractors aware of the new requirements?
So we did the training in November, and also as part of every pre-bid and every item that has a goal, there's a pre-bid meeting where the diversity department is there to go over the requirements for that particular item.
And how many of our regular contractors participated in the training? Was it most of them, or was it hit or miss?
The item was streamed live on YouTube. I can't remember the last count. It was maybe 60 maybe that had reviewed the actual YouTube video of the training. And also the bidder's manual includes the details on the requirements also, and that's included with each specification.
Okay, well, my only comment is that that I think it would be worth our while to make additional efforts to get contractors up to speed on the new requirements, because this is, if it's 8%, that's over $200,000 difference for not making the diversity goals, and we don't want to incur that large of a difference very often.
Yes, we agree to continue with the outreach on the current MBE, WB, SB program.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. And it's a balancing act of, trying to get it right, and it's more of a art than a science sometimes. Mr. Sweeney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairwoman. How are you? Just I want to understand a little bit more deeply with the contractor that came up short, and just with the process of, here they are, you're a little bit short. They can come in and actually talk to you and modify it, and if they reach their goal, they will get it, or is there some discretionary decision-making before that, or discretionary thought process before that decision is made?
Yes, as part of the bidding process, we present as part of the bid package, the SB Bidders Manual, and it documents how you meet the goals. And first, obviously, there's meeting the goals or exceeding the participation by subcontracting, where you provide documentation of agreements. If you fall short, in addition to the subcontractor agreements for those that you have achieved, you can provide documentation of what you did, what emails you sent out, what bids you received from MBEs, WBEs, SBEs, if there's an SBE goal that did, and why you did not use those vendors, or why they weren't included in the participation, and you submit that as part of your bid package. And then we evaluate what percentage of actual participation you have shown you have an actual agreement with each relevant SBE, MBE, WBE. And for the areas or categories that you fall short, you provide documentation of your outreach, your efforts to get that participation. And when that bid is submitted, we'll document, we'll reach out to the vendors that were not included to see did they receive an email, things of that sort. In this case, they also, because they were the low bidder, as part of the new policy, they have the right to go to an internal independent board administrative reconsideration panel to also present their case. And that is what they did on the April 21st.
Got it. So through the chair, basically, if they don't meet their criteria, their bid is rejected. If they choose not to do anything else, and then if they choose to supply their work that they did to try to meet it, is that where the discretionary call could come in? You tried pretty hard, but you didn't get all the way there, or you tried really hard and we'll give it to you?
So with the bid, there are instances where a vendor could submit documentation that they fell short or didn't get SBE or MB participation, but as part of their bid, they provided the documentation of the work they did that DEI can evaluate that while they did not meet the goals because they are not quotas, they did expend a good faith effort to meet the goals, and they will be deemed compliant. Now, the county also has an SBE price preference that says that when we have a bid that has diversity goals, we will go up to a certain percentage based on the lowest compliant, lowest responsive bid to determine if there's a bidder that is compliant within this price range. So in some instances, you may be the lowest bidder, but there may not, and you may not comply with, which includes they did not provide good faith effort. However, there is not a compliant, diversity compliant bidder that is within the allowed percentage that is documented in the bidder's manual. So then we have the additional layer, because we knew there would be a layer learning curve as we did more aggressive efforts based on the disparity study to include MBE, WBEs, and that's why we came up with the internal independent administrative reconsideration panel.
And through the chair, as we said when you're going through the process to your new world, we're going to support you. And you're coming up with a system that makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of, either way you're going to get looked at. And if you grant it, the people that are second saying they didn't do it right, and if they don't grant it, hey, we proved it and it didn't work. But I'm with you. Keep up the good work, and I can see that there's some advancement in your mission, and I appreciate that.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing this, I'm looking at the timeline on here, and thank you, Lenora. I'm looking at the timeline here as having needed to start, so you're...
Say if we could suspend on the second reading.
So I'll make that motion for R2022-0133 for second reading suspension. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to move this forward on second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Sotak.
Yes, thank you, members.
And Madam Clerk, if you could please read the next resolution.
Resolution number 2022-0134, making an award on requisition number 8508 to Smith Group Architects and Landscape Architect, doing business as Smith Group, in the amount not to exceed $1,146,857 for professional engineering design services for the Beulah Park Euclid Beach Connector Project.
All right. And is there someone here to speak on behalf of this resolution?
City Councilman Mike Polensek is here just to speak on the item, but I will present on the item.
Okay, appreciate that. Who wants to go first? The councilman, thanks for being here.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
that.
Chairman, members. I'm here to support the legislation resolution is before you for the Euclid Beach, Beulah Park connector. Just a bit of history. Euclid Beach, Metro Park, and there's 3 parks together, Villa Angela, Wildwood, and Euclid Beach, is the only east side swimming beach in the entire city of Cleveland and on the east side of Cuyahoga County. This connector that is being proposed plans to take a promenade, a walkway from Euclid Beach west to pick up the frontage that has been there for a long time but unmaintained. It's unmaintained, but we're having a problem with the erosion. So this will provide greater public access. It will provide greater opportunities for residents on the east side, and this park is heavily used by residents from the city of Cleveland, specifically within the greater Collinwood neighborhood, Glenville, East Cleveland, and the city of Euclid. So this parkway and this area is highly desirable. It's our East Side Country Club, quite frankly. Especially during warm weather, it is a great magnet and a great attraction for the people and the families who live there. So I'm here to support it. I appreciate the work that the county planning department has done on behalf of not only the county, but the city of Cleveland and the residents who live there. So I'm here to show my support. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. Thanks for stopping in today. Okay, Mr.
Yes, thank you.
Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councilman Polensek, for stopping in today and just those kind words in regards to this project. If I could today, the specific item is an engineering contract, but I'd like to put some context to, what brings us here today. So we have a short presentation, and I'll try and go through it quickly and keeping mindful of the time. First off, I want to, is it possible? Janine's working on it there. Okay, so this is, like I said, a very brief presentation. Beulah Park is located over on East 156th Street, North Collinwood. So that'll be the specific project we're talking about. If you can go to the next slide, or did I just hit it here? Okay. So this slide that's up in front of you right now is the Euclid project that was advanced by the city of Euclid back in 2007, I think is when they really initiated this, where they were able to forge together both public and private partnerships to basically do erosion control measures along the waterfront. In return, they ended up getting lease agreements from private property owners so that we could utilize public dollars to create a public pathway along the waterfront there. This has come to be known as the Euclid model. That's something that we're trying to replicate in other parts of Cuyahoga County. So back in the fall of 2019, the county executive took on an initiative to look at ways on how we can improve access to our waterfront utilizing the Euclid model, and at the same time trying to create different access points to interconnect those areas where the public has access to the waterfront here. So the key part here is integrating, there's many plans that have been put together over the years on specific waterfront projects for the entire 32 miles of the lake. And so what we did in partnership with the County Planning Commission, we undertook a study of the entire 32 miles. What we uncovered at first was there's a whole series of different plans in each of the communities. There's 6 communities on the waterfront, Cleveland obviously being the largest. We were looking at how can we improve access to the waterway. That was another piece of this. Protect the shoreline. We have erosion control issues. The Lake Erie was at a high water mark roughly 3 years ago. the highest it had been in over 50 years. And when the water is that high and it doesn't freeze during the winter, that erosion escalates and it moves more quickly along the waterfront. So we've noticed a lot more erosion taking place. And then at the same time, the other piece was we were looking at enhancing water quality, ecology, and lakefront resilience. So over the 32 miles, we went through a study, and it took roughly 18 months to almost 2 years here, and we presented that to council, I think it was about 4 or 5 months ago now, which involved a lot of community engagement. We had met with the property owners that are along the lakefront. We had community meetings. We met with each of the cities. The cities, in partnership with a few other public entities, created the steering group, which helped us kind of in our efforts to understand how we can increase access to the waterfront. So from that study, which was completed just around the beginning of the year, we uncovered basically 4 key four focal areas that we are advancing. And today I'm bringing forward is really the first of those 4 focus areas. On the west side, there is the one project on the west side is between West Clifton and Linda Street and Rocky River and Lakewood. It's called the Lake Clifton Connector, where we're going to be converting a bridge, narrowing the road down, and creating basically a linear park on the west side, on the far west side. A secondary project is located in the city of Lakewood in the Gold Coast area, close to West 117th Street. There's 13 high-rises there. We're looking at an additional waterfront access point. Once again, that is a partnership we're going to be doing with private property owners. Another project that we are advancing, our third focus area, is East 9th to East 55th along the North Marginal. And each of those projects, I'm going to be coming before you over the next 4 to 6 months here with additional information. And then the final project of our focus areas is the Euclid Beach Connector, which, as I had said, is in the North Collinwood area around East 156th Street. It's basically 2/3 of a mile, rapidly eroding lakefront. There's 2 phases to it. What I have before us today is the schedule for design and engineering, and then construction we're hoping to commence sometime in late either 23 or starting in 24. The overall budget for this project is $11 million. This is the area, so if you look at the screen in front of you, to the right is Euclid Beach, where we hope to connect from, going westbound, and Councilman Polensek made reference to it. There is the area that we're focused on right now is Beulah Park, but as you continue westbound, there's the Village Beach area, and then further to that is Shore Acres Association. So our intent is to try and move forward with phase 1, which is basically from Euclid Beach up into Villa Beach Association. That area right now there is heavy erosion that's taking place there. Last year, we were fortunate enough to receive an emergency erosion grant for $1 million to help in this effort. And then we hope to continue forward with, as we select this design and engineering firm, is they're going to help us through the regulatory process here, because we have to work with both the Corps of Engineers and then also ODNR in regards to permitting to gain access to the waterfront there to do these improvements. These are a couple of photos of what the area currently looks like. And as you can see, all the way to the left on that upper picture is a pier that's at Euclid Beach Park. So what we're going to do is be advancing then to the right of that. So these are 3 different views of what the area currently looks like. Here's a secondary views of the area also. And here is a third view of the Here's another view of the same area. I'm not sure if we printed out copies to be able to advance to you so you can see them, but we'll make sure we get those to you. And here's additional areas where there is significant erosion. So once again, the whole intent here is trying to increase public access to the waterfront. So that's where we're going in partnership with these property owners, landowners, to gain access to the waterfront in turn for creating a long-term relationship to maintain or to provide erosion control measures there so that there is public access in the long term. So this will add overall 2/3 of a mile of additional public access to the waterfront, utilizing basically the Euclid model. This is some of the process, the summary of what we're trying to get accomplished here. Part of the area that we're talking about right now is within the metro parks. And then the other area in the center is the Beulah Park Association, along with the Regional Sewer District has an outfall at this area also that they've done some improvements to. So we're entering into a lease agreement with them to be able to create this public access. So the timeline as the engineering firm, as we hire them, is roughly 19 to 36 months for them at first to collect background data on the area, explore alternatives, select the preferred approach of what we're going to actually put there. And then the next phase is preliminary design and engineering, including the permits. And the most difficult part about this is getting the appropriate permits from the Corps of Engineers and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And then we hope to be into final design and engineering and bidding, which will be a 4 to 6 month process. But once again, we don't think that's going to take place until probably late next year. The sections that are at Shore Acres and Villa Beach, if you see as phase 2, we want to go through the process of designing those now and getting all the appropriate permitting in place, even though we still have a funding gap in regards to the overall project, because the heavy lift here is a funding gap. Or I'm sorry, is getting the permitting in place. And then construction for the project we see is anywhere from 6 to 8 months. Here's the funding that we've received on the project up to date. So we have various grants that have come in. So from the Office of Coastal Management and the Erosion Emergency Assistance Grant for $1 million. We've received a grant from ODNR Nature Works, $150,000. The Land and Water Conservation Fund, the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Project, federal dollars of $1.7 million. And as the county executive has put some money aside from the general fund, the ARPA dollars to be able to use on the waterfront, we are going to use part of those dollars on this project. But we are very aggressive in chasing grants for this project and the other projects that I'll be bringing forward to you in the near future. So that's an ongoing process, and we'll keep at it. And so that's where we are right now. These are a couple of views of what potentially could be put in place. Once again, we haven't made that decision yet of what it would look like, but we'll be working with our engineering firm to see what kind of shoreline protection would be in place, and then obviously the access point for the public to be able to walk on there. These are a couple of just quick renderings throughout the Great Lakes of different areas of what they look like on the waterfront of where people have been able to create lakefront access. Most of these are like staircases coming down to the waterfront. The difference from the high ground to the waterfront is roughly about 15 to 20 feet in this area, as opposed to on the west side, it's close to 70 feet in height. These are a couple other renderings. Some of these are local pictures of things that have been done along the waterfront also. Once again, it's just to give you an idea of what potentially could be there. And as we go through the engineering and design phase, we'll come up with what will be the preferred solution. And that's working closely with the community. Obviously, Councilman Polensek will be involved too. And these are a few other of the renderings along the waterfront there. So what I have before you today then is, so I have the engineering contract, RFQ 8505 for $1 million, $1,146,857. We did an RFQ for this. The total value of the RFQ was for $1,146,857. The RFQ closed on February 7th, 2022. There was one proposal that was submitted, and the one proposal was selected was the Smith Group. There was DEI did the review. There was 15% SBE requirement, 10% MBE requirement, and a 5% WBE requirement on the RFQ. This project is going to be funded 100% by the general fund. And as I said, we're still chasing grants to continue to make up the gap for the second phase of this, but we will use this contract to design the entire project. And our hope is that we get this approved in the near future and we're able to provide greater public access to the waterfront. So with that, I'm here to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be coming back to us for individual requests for certain projects on this as we move
Definitely,
forward, okay?
definitely. I think I was just trying to give you the
Sure.
quick overview
Understood.
of
and
the
we
larger
appreciate
project.
Yeah, the committee, I'm sure my colleagues appreciate it as well. So let me just get specific to this piece of legislation. As far as the RFQ here, there was only one bidder, and why do you think that was? Or?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We did put a solicitation out for over 80 different firms that could have an interest in it. As we've started to notice, a lot of our engineering firms are really saturated with work now because of the federal dollars and the state dollars, ARPA dollars that have come into play, that many of the firms are very busy and they can't take on additional work. This group in specifically, they have become doing quite a bit of work in this this area. They are actually the design group that have done the Euclid Beach or the Euclid project that I've been referencing. So they were involved in that. They just have an expertise that, you know, it's hard for other firms, I think, to compete against it. And once again, I think there's a saturation. There's a lot of work going on out there, so people are somewhat selective on what they're going after.
So the 5 no-bid businesses that listed they couldn't be competitive, that you think that's why, because of this special?
Somewhat specialty, but they came forward with a series of local, they have a local teams also that they're going to be utilizing to help them with some of this work, but these guys are the general.
And when you reference the work, what exactly does this firm do then? What will they do for this
So
project?
they'll help with the designing, the engineering, and the permitting, which is probably the most critical piece of this, is getting the permits, working your way through the state and federal process to get the approvals to be able to build on.
So the state, because the lakefront, the state's going to be involved in that?
Very much so.
And federal government, okay. How long do you see this process taking? What type of timeline?
So we see this engineering firm being with us for probably at least 2.5 to 3 years. To help us through the regulatory process. As soon as we do get the overall permit, and that's what we're doing with this project now. Even though we're only going to be constructing phase 1, we are going to get all the necessary permits in place for phase 1 and 2, which is the much larger project.
Are there any concern about getting permits and having like time restrictions on the permits, or is it once you get the permit, it's good to go for a number of years?
Yeah, that's correct. And as I had said, we're going to be chasing state grants, state and federal grants through our lobbyist.
So you mentioned grants or federal money. Are any of the ARPA funds going to be used for this?
Yeah, actually, as you may have noticed, the county executive had set aside up to $8 million on waterfront related work. So right now, I'm looking at a percentage of that, roughly about $2.5 to $3 million of that $8 million allotment to be used for this specific project.
And But we'll be having a new county executive coming in next year. Is it your expectation that he will be okay with this?
I don't want to ever put words in the mouth. Obviously, we've got a new county
But
executive.
it's a consideration, you know, if it goes in a different direction, but.
Yeah, there definitely is, but since we've already been awarded a large allotment of dollars for this project, I think this is a pretty solid project that can go underway right now. And I think that whoever the next county executive should be supportive.
Okay. I understand we had a presentation with, you know, what the expectations are, but I would just ask my colleagues, if you have some general questions about it, that's fine, but I think we can address those as the individual projects come to us, and the legislation before us is kind of where I'd like to see us focus on. But if you have a general question about the project, that's no problem. I'll open the floor to you guys. Mr. Sweeney and then Mr.
I'll try
Miller.
to stay
Okay.
within your direction, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Director. Just curious, when you say lake access, what you're trying to do is bring them down? Is there going to, because you have a path, then you have swimming area, beach. Are we going to enhance the beach? Is it just going to be path? I'm just trying to figure out.
So I think that's part of the design process here is first we're going to do further geotechnical investigations there. So if there's a possibility to put a beach there.
Or beach is better.
Or other amenities could be, you know, we were just talking about this a little while ago about a pier. There's a lot of open opportunities. Obviously, you know, the cost to add something like that is going to push the overall project up, but the possibilities are there. The first part is we're going to get access to the waterfront. Now, what are we going to put there?
Yeah, from my perspective, this is the design portion, and it's going to be, could be more than just the path.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Miller? That's perfectly fine, yeah. Within the purview, as we say.
So, Director, did we get more than one bid on this, or just the one?
Unfortunately, it was an RFQ process, and we only received the one. And once again, we believe that there's certain expertise on trying to do work on the waterfront, and the regulatory environment is somewhat challenging. So, you know, it was unfortunate we only received one, but that's the reality of it. And I think there's a lot of competition out there, but the market is just, it's on fire right now, and there's so much work going on.
So, since we only got the one bid, how do we know that the price is at all reasonable as opposed to the price just being jacked up because of the environment that we're in?
Well, it wasn't. It was an RFQ, so they submitted their qualifications, and then we negotiated price. So we helped figure out what was it going to cost to do certain elements of the work. Chasing the permitting process is a time to work with the folks out of both Sandusky and Buffalo. So we took that all into consideration to come up with the overall dollar figure. It was a negotiation back and forth.
So, you're saying that you're confident that the price is fair and reasonable?
Yes, we are.
Okay, all right, thank you. So what do you, obviously, you know, I know you probably want to move this thing along, but what is the time frame? Can this go 3 readings or?
Well, the key to this is there is some regulatory issues like trying to understand, like, as you may have heard on other projects, figuring out like bats and birds and the issues that are surrounding about when's the proper time to be able to cut down or identify migratory birds. So it's really ideal for us to get this going as soon as we can, so that we can in turn start that process of understanding the ecological issues that surround that area. So the hope is that I could, that you would approve this on second reading suspension.
Okay. All right, well, I'll make that motion to move R 2022-0134 along on second reading suspension. Do I have a second?
Second, Sweeney.
Okay, we have a second from Councilman Sweeney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman. And once again, I'd like to really appreciate all the work that the County Planning Commission has done on this. Mary Serby's here and her team, including Jim Sonhalter. They have been instrumental in doing that, helping us get to this point so that we can get this underway. So I appreciate it, so
Very
thank you
good.
so much.
Thank you. We appreciate the work they do. Thank you very much for being
Thanks.
here. Is there any miscellaneous business this morning before the committee? Okay, seeing none. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And Public Works will adjourn at 10:52 a.m.